What's up everybody on YouTube, AJ Russ back to discuss another video, and today we're going to be talking about the biggest takeaways from NFL Week 2. Second week of the NFL season right here, so I would say it's still pretty early. Like I said in my last video, my last NFL recap, we don't want to overreact. It's a week that shows what teams have adjusted to, what different game plans they have implemented, and adjustments they've made to prior matchups, whether they won the week before or lost in a bad fashion. But before I get into these Week 2 games, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I post videos about sports, lifestyle, and pop culture. So with that being said, let's get into NFL Week 2. Thursday Night Football, of course, took place between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings, and the final score was close, being 34-28, but really the game never felt that close. The Vikings had so many mistakes, and I feel like if the Eagles were last year's team, they would have blown the Vikings out by a lot more. They're still getting things acclimated with a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and AJ Brown was visibly frustrated with Jalen Hurts after not receiving a lot of receptions and things of that nature. At the end of the day, they were able to win the game. DeAndre Swift was a for sure standout for the Eagles. He had 28 carries for 175 rushing yards and a touchdown. And Kirk Cousins on the other end for the Vikings, he played a really good game all around, completing 31 of his 44 passing attempts, throwing for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Justin Jefferson, he should have had a touchdown to his name, but ultimately it was a touchback as he fumbled in the end zone, which really cost the Vikings later on in the game. He had 11 receptions for 159 receiving yards. So a lot of things we'll be able to tell with the Vikings, because things won't get easier from here, and if they continue to lose, will they potentially think about trading Kirk Cousins? A lot of people have voiced their concerns about the Eagles, but I think they'll be fine. Like I said, they're getting stuff acclimated with their new coordinators on both ends. And the Eagles, they still have one of the best defenses in the league, arguably the best offensive line in the league, of course with Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, people like that. So they'll definitely be one of the favorites in the NFC going forward. But let's talk about another team in that same division and in the NFC, in the Dallas Cowboys. They really dominated that game against the New York Jets, and of course the Jets are without Aaron Rodgers for the season. The Jets defense is one of the best defenses in the league, and the Dallas Cowboys were able to beat them 30-10, scoring 30 points. And of course, they relied on a lot of field goals in the red zone. They weren't able to complete all the way, but in the first possession, they did score a touchdown with Dak throwing it to Jake Ferguson. And Dak played an efficient game. He completed 13 of his first passing attempts, and in the game, Dak went 31 for 38, throwing for 255 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And that defense, though, that defense is really the main factor of the Dallas Cowboys, which really has carried into 2 games, only allowing 10 points in 2 games, defeating both New York teams. Of course, the Giants in Week 1, that was a crazy game, and then beating the Jets in this game. And Micah Parsons, man, he is something else. Got 2 sacks on Zach Wilson, stripped the ball from Dalvin Cook, really just being all over the backfield. I mean, no one can really stop him in the league. For sure, easily the headliner for Defensive Player of the Year, and really could be an MVP candidate in my opinion right now. For sure, the second best player in the league behind Mahomes. Definitely don't want to overrate the Cowboys right now, because we know ultimately how we're going to measure them the most is how they perform in the postseason. But also that offense looked really good. Mike McCarthy is showing to be a good play caller right now, being efficient, getting plays out quick. So we'll see with the Cowboys. CD Lamb also had a great game with 11 receptions and 153 receiving yards. So they're definitely one of the best teams in the NFL, playing arguably the best right now in the NFC. The San Francisco 49ers are definitely up there too. But the Cowboys, they are for real, and we'll see. But like I said, we don't want to overreact to 2 weeks. Speaking of the San Francisco 49ers, they continue to look impressive. They did beat the Los Angeles Rams 30-23 in Week 2 in Los Angeles, and 49ers are looking great. Brock Purdy hasn't missed a beat since last year, completed 17 of his 25 passing attempts, 206 passing yards. Christian McCaffrey, proving to be one of the best, if not the best running back in the game, had 20 carries, 116 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel had 6 receptions, 63 yards. And even on the Rams end, rookie Puka, he had 15 receptions for 147 receiving yards. He was a 5th round pick this year, but he's been playing great. Played great in Week 1. Matthew Stafford, that might be his Cooper Kupp right now in terms of the connection to him. And the Rams, they're looking solid even though they did lose the game. But like I said a second ago about the Cowboys and 49ers, they've had the Cowboys numbers in the past few years. So if they match up again in the playoffs, that'll be really good. And they also match up in the regular season in Week 5. So we're a couple of weeks away from that matchup. Definitely have to talk about this AFC North matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Bengals. The Ravens would win 27-24. And right now, the Bengals are struggling not only in terms of getting wins, but Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase, we know that's been one of the best quarterback and wide receiver duos for the past couple of years, since 21 when Chase was drafted. But they're just not getting things to go together right now. Joe Burrow just got that contract, but he's been somewhat struggling, and he also is struggling with his calf injury. It looks like he re-aggravated it yesterday in the game against Baltimore. So That's a concern for the Bengals for sure. But on the other end, the Baltimore Ravens, they're looking really good. Second game under that new Todd Monken offense. Lamar looks great. Completed 24 out of his 33 passing attempts, 237 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. But Lamar, him getting into the passing game, and of course we know what he can do with his legs. If he continues to just get more comfortable in the offense, we're going to be able to potentially see the Ravens do elite things this year. They just have to stay healthy. That's really what it comes down to and what it boils down to. Although Beckham made some plays as well. He did get injured with his ankle, but they don't think it's that serious, so that's good news for them. But the Ravens, they definitely will be in the mix in the AFC. We had a rematch of the AFC divisional round between the Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I was watching that game and it was kind of an ugly watch. The Chiefs would win 17-9. Chris Jones returning this game, and his impact you could see instantly on that defensive end with the Chiefs. And then Travis Kelce also returning this game, and he looked a little bit rusty, but of course that comes with it over time. We still know that he's the best tight end in the game, and Travis Kelce's and Patrick Mahomes' chemistry is unmatched. Mahomes threw 29 for 41, had 305 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Sky Moore played pretty good. He had a touchdown to his name and 70 receiving yards, and also Kadarius Toney, he was able to get his rhythm back. Didn't drop any balls, so that's positive for the Chiefs for sure. I think that they'll be fine. The Lions, they're a tough and gritty team that they lost in week 1, 2. And like I said, it's too early to overreact to different things. I think that for sure one of the biggest takeaways from this Chiefs perspective is that they'll be fine. It's always an adjustment period after not only winning the Super Bowl, but just starting the season in a new year in general. So that's one thing for them. And the Jaguars, I think they'll be fine too. They had a lot of attempts in the red zone, and give credits to the Kansas City secondary. They were able to stop Calvin Ridley from getting touchdowns and things of that nature. But I think the Jaguars, they'll still win that division in the AFC South and look better than they did last year. Trevor Lawrence will continue to grow as a quarterback. That was just a tough game for them playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's a couple games we can speed through. The Buffalo Bills were able to get their rhythm back after losing in week 1 to the New York Jets. They beat the Raiders yesterday 38-10 in a blowout. Josh Allen played really good. Completed 31 of his 37 passing attempts. Had 274 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. James Cook played really good. He had 17 carries for 123 rushing yards. Gabe Davis had 92 receiving yards and a touchdown. The Bills, I think they'll be fine as long as Josh Allen makes smart decisions and doesn't put his body on the line too much, because we know that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Top 3 in my opinion. This game was really crazy. The Commanders came back from a 21-3 deficit, beating the Denver Broncos 35-33. And the Broncos did have a Hail Mary at the end of the game, but they were unable to complete the 2-point conversion, and that was for sure a defensive pass interference that went uncalled on that conversion attempt. But that really is the Broncos in a nutshell right now. And although people have been flaming Russell Wilson a lot, he really had a solid game, I would say. He completed 18 out of his 32 passing attempts, had 308 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and he also ran a little bit, had 56 rushing yards. So I would say I wouldn't put it on Russell Wilson. If anything, the blame should go to the Broncos defense. Sam Howell, he had a really good game, threw for 299 passing yards and had 2 touchdowns. You can really look at that offense being restored by the hiring of Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City. It's been a huge difference for them offensively. Sam Howell's looked solid, and also you've seen some of the slippage from the Kansas City end because they haven't been able to score as much without Bieniemy, with Matt Nagy now calling the plays in Kansas City. The Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions played yesterday, and the Seattle Seahawks were able to win 37-31 in overtime. I view these teams very similar in ways that they are both tough, great coach teams, and we saw that in the matchup. Geno Smith had a really good game, threw for 328 passing yards and had 2 touchdowns. Jared Goff had a good game too. Had similar numbers really, threw for 323 passing yards and had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Kenneth Walker III played really good on my fantasy team, so shout out to him. He had 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery also had a touchdown as well. He got injured in the game. On St. Brown, he also had 6 receptions for 102 receiving yards. So both of these teams, like I said, I view them very similar. And I also think that they'll potentially be in the mix to make the playoffs in the NFC, as it's not as competitive as the AFC is. We can talk about another game. The New York Giants came back to beat the Cardinals 31-28. They struggled in the first half, but they got their rhythm back. Daniel Jones played better after struggling in week 1 against the Cowboys and struggling at the first part of this game. And Saquon Barkley was injured in this game, but they're saying that the ankle injury shouldn't be as serious as they thought at first. So that's a blessing and a good thing for them. Another game that took place was between the Packers and the Falcons, and the Falcons won that game 25-24 from a field goal at the end of the game. And Jordan Love, he played pretty good, I would say, pretty solid. Not the best game because he did have that little QB sneak debacle where he fell in the game, but he threw 14 for 25, had 151 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, so he's finding his way in Green Bay. I think that he'll be really good for them, and like I said before in the last video, Green Bay, I feel like they'll be a playoff team. Desmond Ridder played really good. He's showing that he has the potential to be the quarterback of the future for the Atlanta Falcons. Threw for 237 passing yards, had a touchdown and interception. Bijan Robinson had 19 carries for 124 rushing yards. Drake London had a touchdown as well, so those are both two interesting teams in the mix. The Falcons, they look very solid as well. We'll see what they do in the NFC South. And also, speaking of another team in the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Bad News Bears 27-17. The Bears, they just look absolutely awful, man. And it sucks because Justin Fields, he definitely has potential and is a great talent, but he has to be able to get through his reads faster. He's holding on to the ball too long. There was countless of possessions where he had open receivers, but he was just holding on to the ball too long and overthinking. And they still look like the worst team in the league. After having the first pick and trading, of course, down to the Carolina Panthers, they still look bad. And there's a lot of questions there. He also had 2 interceptions. But on the other end, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, hey, they look really good. Mike Evans, he looks really good in particular too. Had 6 receptions for 171 receiving yards and had a touchdown. Baker Mayfield looks really good, getting his footing back. Completed 26 out of his 34 passing attempts, had 317 passing yards and 1 touchdown. So I'm very impressed with the Bucs for sure. The Colts beat the Texans 31-20. Anthony Richardson played really good while he was in, but he ended up leaving the game with a concussion. He has to protect himself, man. That's number one, and that's what's key. So hopefully he's able to do so. Gardner Minshew was able to fill in his absence, completed 19 of his 23 passing attempts for 171 passing yards and a touchdown. And on the other end for the Texans, of course, I'm from Houston, but I'm not a Texans fan. But I really do like CJ Stroud, and he played a really good game. I think there's no doubt that he's unequivocally the quarterback of the future for the Houston Texans. Completed 30 of his 47 passing attempts, had 384 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Looked really good. Nico Collins had 7 receptions for 146 receiving yards and a touchdown. Also, Tank Dell from U of H, the school that I go to, had his first receiving touchdown in the NFL, so that's really good. The Texans, of course, they're not that good of a team right now. They do have a lot of work to do on the offensive line and things of that nature, defensively as well. Of course, they have Tunsil still on the offensive line, but they still have a lot of work to do. But they definitely have a bright future with people like Will Anderson Jr., CJ Stroud. John Mechie played his first NFL game as well, so a lot of people like that going forward for the Texans. The Los Angeles Chargers continue to struggle as they lost to the Tennessee Titans 27-24. I don't know, man, with Brandon Staley, if they don't reach expectations in the playoffs in Los Angeles, in my opinion, at least reaching the second round, I feel like he'll get let go. And that's unfortunate to say, but after that game against the Jaguars, myself and a lot of people were genuinely surprised that he wasn't let go. So I think that this for sure is his last shot as the head coach of the Chargers, but I think that they'll be fine. Like I said, it's only week 2, so I don't want to overreact. I would be contradicting myself if I were to do that, but you, of course, have your quarterback in the future in Justin Herbert. You still have Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler right now injured. They have a lot of things going for them, of course, but losing to the Titans, that's a game you gotta have, because the Titans, they aren't expected to do too much. They do, of course, still have Derrick Henry and people like that, but he only had 80 rushing yards himself. And Ryan Tannehill, he's solid, but nothing crazy. So that's a game you got to have, but they need to start winning because the AFC is tough and loaded, like I've continued to state before in previous videos. Sunday Night Football also took place. The Miami Dolphins were able to beat the Patriots 24-17. Tua Tagovailoa is continuing to look good, completed 21 out of his 30 passing attempts for 249 passing yards and a touchdown, and had 1 interception, but they're looking really good. Their running game with Raheem Mostert looks really good as well. He had 18 carries for 121 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, had a lot of good plays. The Dolphins right now, I would say they're looking like one of the best teams in the AFC. As long as Tua stays healthy, they have an explosive offense, you know, with Tyreek Hill, with Jalen Waddle, with people of that nature, and of course Raheem Mostert at the backfield. And then on the other side with the Patriots, they are 0-2, but they're for sure always a tough out and going to be competitive with their defense, things of that nature, having Matthew Judon and players like that. Christian Gonzalez had his first interception over Tyreek Hill yesterday. He looked really good. I was impressed with him. Mac Jones, he had a solid game, completing 31 out of his 42 passing attempts, had 231 passing yards, a touchdown, and interception. So with the Patriots, I mean, they're always going to be a tough team to me. Always be in the mix to make the playoffs with Bill Belichick at the helm, but I just don't know what to take too much from this. Besides that, the Dolphins are real. They're going to be for sure one of the best teams in the league in the AFC. But from the Patriots perspective, I mean, they're going to be competitive. But besides that, I really don't think they'll do too much. We, of course, have to talk about the final 2 games that took place in NFL Week 2 on Monday Night Football. The first matchup between the New Orleans Saints, where they won 20, against the Carolina Panthers, who only had 17. It was a tough game to watch. I've been looking forward to seeing Bryce Young in the NFL for sure, and I think he's going to be really promising in the league. Of course, a little bit undersized, and he is on the Panthers for a reason. They don't have the best team, so he's going to be running for his life a lot, and we saw a lot of that. He made some plays for sure that looked good, but he was under pressure a lot and wasn't efficient while doing so as a rookie quarterback, because the game speeds up way different than the college game. On the other end, Derek Carr, he had a solid game, I would say. Completed 21 out of his 36 passing attempts for 228 passing yards. The Saints just really had a well-won game from their defense for sure, continuing to one of the best and most consistent defenses in the league for sure over the past 5 to 6 years, really. Still having Cam Jordan, a lot of pieces like that. The final game on Monday Night Football we have to talk about is the Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Cleveland Browns 26-22. First of all, prayers up for Nick Chubb. He left this game got carted off. Seems to look as a significant knee injury, and he is expected to miss the remainder of the season. So it's probably a torn ACL, meniscus, LCL, something like that, which sucks. I'm sure by the time I post this video, the actual injury will be reported. But yeah, he's definitely looking to be out for the season. That sucks because Nick Chubb, in my opinion, either him or Christian McCaffrey are the best running backs in the league, I would say, out of those two that are top two, in my opinion, in my eyes. And it's going to definitely hurt the Cleveland Browns going forward. And they did lose this game, of course, without him. Deshaun Watson is still looking to get his footing back. He, of course, made some plays, which we expected him to, running the ball. But passing-wise, he's still trying to get used to that Cleveland Browns system, it feels like, with Kevin Stefanski. Amari Cooper had 7 receptions and 90 yards. For the Steelers, that defense really carried. TJ Watt had a touchdown. Alex Highsmith played a really great game as well. The defense really carried them and ultimately would let them to win. Kenny Pickett is still somewhat struggling. Only completed half of his completion attempts, throwing for 15 for 30. Had 222 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So it'll take time for them to get stuff going offensively, but defensively, the Steelers have it there and play at a high level, and the Cleveland Browns too, their defense plays at a high level as well, but someone had to win, and the Steelers did. It's still very early in the season, so people will overreact to teams like the Bengals being 0-2 like they were last year. I still think they'll be fine. I feel like if the Ravens stay healthy, I think that they'll win the division this year, and Lamar and the Ravens could make a lot of work in the AFC, but we'll see. Teams like the Cowboys, they definitely look dominant. We have to see more sustained success with them, and it will boil down to the postseason in Dallas for them. The 49ers are continuing to look great. The Eagles, they're trying to get their footing back, like I said, and just more going on in the league. So I would say the biggest takeaway from NFL Week 2 is just to remain calm. We're seeing snippets of how these teams can do. There's always going to be teams that start off slow but end up getting their footing back, and there's always going to be the fraudulent teams and things of that nature. So we just have to see how long, just have to see sustained success, what teams will be most consistent. Really, I don't think we can measure teams that well until week 5, week 6, or week 7. That's just my opinion, but that's what I take away from looking at NFL Week 2 so far in the 2023 season. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you in the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss, and also on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02 for more cooking videos, shorts, content, and things of that nature. Let me know what you think of the season so far, how excited you are that football and the NFL is back. I definitely am planning to post more videos. There's just not a lot of news going on besides the NFL. Of course, in the NBA, the season will start soon, so stay tuned for more videos on the NBA for sure. Marvel Studios wise and pop culture and things like that. Writer strike and the actor strike is really limiting a lot of new content to come out, so whenever that ends, which I hope is soon, man, because it sucks, I will have more videos on Marvel videos and DC and things of that nature. But yeah, y'all stay tuned for more videos. I hope y'all are doing well, being blessed, stay safe, stay prayed up, and y'all have a good one.